This is going to be a fun conversation, I think, for me personally, for a few reasons. One is because on the K-Bridge podcast so far, we haven't had anybody with a kind of sports background or covering this topic. And for me as a youngster, like up until middle school, early high school years, soccer or football was a very big part of my life. And that's the topic we're going to be covering in part today. Could you introduce yourself, like who you are and what you do?
Okay. So first of all, thanks for having me. Before starting, I would like to express that you are doing a fantastic job. So
thank you.
K-Bridge itself and the motivation behind this is admirable. It's very important in terms of raising the understanding level of people, especially of Koreans, all Koreans, local Koreans, and Koreans with diaspora background.
Yep.
So congrats on that.
Thank you.
And I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. Well, part of the reason why it was so interesting for us to connect is because I think it was first on LinkedIn where we had a brief interaction. And I was checking out your profile, and somewhere in your bio, it was like a bridge between Europe and Asia as it relates to sports.
Yes.
Right? So the company that you run and you founded and you manage is Mino Sports,
Yes.
right? And can you explain a little bit about what that is and what you do professionally?
Mino Sports is a sports company. I'm working in sports management, to be more precise, in football industry. It's just to avoid misunderstandings. It's soccer in the US.
I accept it. It's the entire world is calling it football.
Except
so
the
I'll accept
US,
it.
yeah?
Yes.
So I was wondering, you're coming from the US, do I have to say soccer? But I'm used to say football. So
yes.
I'm working in this football industry as players and match agent. Thanks to my father, because his voluntary engagement in the Korean community in Germany opened me the door to be able to work in this area.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Because the way that you had first heard about K-Bridge was, I think, through the interview that I had done with Jay, the French Korean, and with Jusuk, the Korean German. And you had mentioned the last time we had a quick coffee chat, your background was quite similar in terms of Jusuk's and the Korean German, his parents moving to Germany. So could you share a little bit about your parents, them immigrating to Germany, and also your upbringing as well?
Sure, it's a long story, I think. Have you watched the movie 국제시장?
I have not, no.
I think the English title is Ode to My Father.
Okay.
It's a story beginning during Korean War. Then you have the post-war period. And later on, a father moving to Germany as a guest worker, as a miner, sacrificing himself for the sake of his family staying in Korea. And this movie, I think it was released sometime in 2016, 17. It's still on Netflix, so highly recommend it.
I'll check it out.
Korea, post-war, had been one of the poorest countries in the world. So everybody here was facing a hard life. And in the early 60s, popped up an opportunity for Koreans to be guest worker in Germany. They had been looking for miners and for nurses. There had been an agreement between the two governments, Korea and Germany. So a couple of thousands miners and nurses went to Germany, like my parents. My father started to be a miner, and when he told me about this, it was kind of heartbreaking, because when he told me about this job, he said he was working with young men, young adults. They're coming out from a hard life in Korea, and suddenly they are working as a miner in a foreign country, and being a miner had been so hard. These young men, if you see them from another perspective, almost still kids, aged like 18, 19, 20. So these grown-ups had been crying during working in the night, crying for their moms. So this was something he explained to me, for the reason that this experience these men made at that time made them strong for the life afterwards. And I think this is one of the key points for the success of Koreans living in Germany, because they became resistant to any other problem that occurred. They had been self-confident to start after being a miner, their entrepreneurships. We had a lot of, today you say, startups. So they worked for themselves. They permanently increased their standard of living. So these men made their way out of this experience. My mother had been a nurse. The guest workers received a 3 years contract. The ones of the nurses could have been extended due to a lack of manpower in hospitals. But men had to return to Korea after 3 years. The only exception had been marrying a German woman or a Korean nurse. So did my father. I guess it was love, not the visa matter. I hope so.
Yeah.
And one of the results had been myself, and I have a younger brother. So Koreans started, not only my parents, but quite a big number of Koreans who came as a guest worker, started to settle permanently in Germany. And I think this was the real beginning of Korean diaspora in Germany. Before the guest workers, there had been already students, for sure with another financial background, because also at that time in Germany you didn't have tuition fees, but they had to afford their lives.
Right.
So they had to bring money from home to be able to live in Germany, whereas the guest workers earned money in Germany to support the families in Korea. And if you compare the value of the wages, being a miner, being a nurse, in comparison to the financial situation in Korea at that time, was they earned huge money. So my parents, different from nowadays. Nowadays, people in Korea don't get babies. Life is too expensive. Maybe they have other reasons. But the families of the generation of my father and mother had been quite big. So my father, I think, is a 6, 7 siblings.
Wow.
My mother 4. So, for example, my mother had been second eldest. She went to Germany in order to finance the study of her younger siblings.
Wow.
So they married, they settled, and with my parents also a very big number of other Koreans. And being permanently in Germany, the wish became bigger to be organized within the Koreans living in Germany. There had been some kind of student organization, but this was like only for gatherings from time to time. Beginning in the early 70s, the guest workers, the former guest workers, took over the lead of this community. And it became a community on a higher level in terms of quality and in terms of quantity. So there had been like events, sports events, if you had like festivals like Chuseok or New Year, so everybody came together because before that time they only had been working hard for their families, not living their own lives. And being in a community meant for them to enjoy also their own lives. So I think this was very important. And long explanation, but now I'm coming a little bit more to my point.
Yes.
Within the general community of Koreans in Germany, people started to have subsidiaries like sports community, like football community. And at that time there had been a Korean-German businessman. I think he was in trading and he needed political communication with Korea to strengthen his business. At that time, the president of Korea had been Park Chung-hee, and the cousin of Park Chung-hee, President Park Chung-hee, had been the president of the Korean Football Association here in Seoul. So his idea was, okay, I will be the president of the federation in Germany, and we will have communication with the cousin of the president to start my business. So it was like the business mindset in his head. My father was more the acting part. So what did they do? They really got in contact with the football federation. So now the community in Germany worked on also a political and sports level. And they invited 2 coaches, selected coaches by the KFA here in Korea. The coaches came, everything had been paid by the German community, 3 months, hotel, food, and for sure also the management. So they had been like watching Bundesliga matches, they had been watching training sessions to learn about training methods. They visited clubs to learn about structuring, and this was the start of like the development also of Korean football. So the Korean community in Germany had been not only a support on political level. So for example, at that time when you had like natural disasters in Korea, the German Association of Koreans supported Korea with goods, with money, just to help Korea itself. So I think, and this is still pointed out by every president who visits Germany from time to time, that the Koreans living in Germany had been a milestone in the development, the political and economical development of Korea itself.
Wow.
So then we had these 2 coaches in Germany, and back in the days, Bundesliga was top in the world. There was like no Premier League, no La Liga, so Germany was in terms of football #1 in the world.
And roughly speaking, what time frame is this?
We're speaking about early 70s and mid of 70s, something like this. So it was almost the time when I was born, but it was already the start of my father to do voluntary work in this area.
Wow.
So there had been a Japanese player playing in Bundesliga. At that time, the football level of Japan was far behind Korea. So, Korean people very proud. And, and they said, hey, there is a Japanese guy, and it cannot be like this. We have to have a Korean player also playing in the Bundesliga. So my father asked these 2 coaches, can you recommend somebody? And the one they recommended was Chabongun. He was, still is a legend in Bundesliga, a superstar in Korea. You know, he was like really the door opener for following up players. Like we had quite a lot, but then we had the next superstars like Ji-sung Park or Son Heung-min. And this is, now we are speaking about a time later on, but he was really the one who showed the people in Europe, oh, Korea can play football. So when having these football people coming, we had also coaches after these two selected persons who came by paying their own money to learn in Germany, to have benchmarking projects, etc., etc. But we are talking about a time before we had a professional league in Korea. So for sure, budget was a big problem for them. They could rarely afford their flight tickets. But being in Germany, no money for hotel, and you had to have somebody who helped them.
Yes.
So what did they do? They came to our house. To be honest, I didn't like this because they used my room. I had to sleep with my parents, and at the age of 6, 7, 8, you think, okay, I'm already a big boy. Why do I have to sleep with my parents? But I had like Chabongun or really people with legend status in Korea sleeping in my bed.
Wow.
And I was following them with my father to watch trainings, etc., etc. And because my German, of course, was better than the German of my father, I tried to explain. So these people, for me, like more like in Korea you say samchon, like uncle, not the real familiar status, but you say samchon, uncle, and it's a different relationship I have than other agents here in Korea. Then also clubs and also the national team of Korea, they started to have camps in Germany.
Wow.
Even in winter, we have the same 4 seasons like in Korea. So winter is cold, rainy. Real weather in Germany is really not good. But they decided to come to Germany to play matches, to learn, and to develop the Korean football. And I was in charge at that time. I started when I had been in high school to manage teams as a translator first, and it's like being a road manager. So people told me, Markus, go and buy some water or whatever. So small things, but this was my start in football business. But to be honest, at that time, I didn't create this idea, okay, this can be my job in the future. So I graduated from high school. What I did first was like half a year language school in Korea. And then I started to study something because it was the expectation of my parents, of the Koreans in Germany, without really knowing what shall I do after. My major was French literature, and I had economics as a minor, but I started because I was not into law, and I hated economics because of math. So
understandable.
Yeah, so I was not bad in foreign languages, so I decided, okay, let's do French.
Wow.
But when studying, I received an offer from the first Korean agency, who was very close to another agent working in Germany. This agent, being in Germany, is or was, he passed, unfortunately passed away a couple of weeks ago, is the father of, I don't know if you heard the name Yuteo. It's a very famous movie star here in Korea. He also had films in Hollywood, I think.
Wow.
So this is, for example, a very big example of a Korean diaspora background guy with great success coming back to Korea. And so anyway, this was the start for me in football business. Because this agency wanted me to be like head of Europe, responsible for Korean players coming to Europe. And we had players in Italy, we had players in Bundesliga, Austria, Netherlands, etc., etc. Yeah, so and it was a long explanation, but what I wanted to transport to you is the fact that all this had been possible because of the engagement of my father. And I think we spoke about this last time a lot. Like me at that time, I didn't know that I have these advantages. I came into this area without knowing that this can be my strength.
Yeah.
And I guess there are a lot of people with diaspora background who at this moment do not figure out what kind of strengths they have.
Yes.
I think the generation changed back in the days, in my generation, when Korean came to Germany. Rarely nobody could speak English, so language was a very big point. But this is my opinion. Nowadays, I think you will agree to me. Also, the young generation in Korea, they can speak English. At least they can communicate.
Yes.
So you don't have this language barrier anymore as a big problem.
Right.
And what for me is more interesting is the fact that people like us have this knowledge about different cultures. You know how to deal with US citizens, or in my case with Germans or people living in Germany. So even Germany now is a multicultural country.
Yes.
Yes, and not only because of the guest workers, so people with diaspora background, I think everybody has to make his own experience, or her, but for me, I never had this identical crisis. Am I German? Am I Korean? Or something else? For me it was, and now even more, the fact, okay, where are my strengths and what can I do? I think when moving to Korea, for my advantage had been that I already had a Korean network with the people that had been during the past years in Germany, so I had contact points. They knew about me. Here in football Korea, I have a nickname, the German.
The German, that's great.
It's not only because of my passport.
Yeah.
I hold the German citizenship, but it's also about the mentality. I think I'm more straight. Koreans are like going to the right, going to the left.
Yes.
At least they go forward.
Yes.
But I'm not like, I don't like to be like this. I go straight, and sometimes if people don't know, they remark very fast, okay, he's different from us, but why? But most of the people know that I am coming from another culture, from Germany. So they accepted me, and yeah, I think this is in short my story.
I have a lot of questions on your story, but also just to go back to your dad and his kind of early journey as well. Like you had mentioned, in terms of a standard program for Korean going to Germany, working as a minor, there was some like three-year term that was standard, and then you return unless you married a German citizen or maybe another Korean German that was working there, right? And you had also mentioned that there were a lot of people that had immigrated to Germany when they were quite young. With your dad's situation, when he moved to Germany, like one, age range, like how old was he? And two, like in terms of the football influence, was that even as him as a youth in Korea, that was something that he was passionate about, or did that develop during his time in Germany?
So my father moved to Germany in his late 20s.
Okay.
He was born in 39, so yeah, late 20s.
Wow.
Should be like this. So he was a little bit elder than the mentioned young man,
Yes.
18, 19, 20. He had always this passion about football, and sports in general. Football combines people. So the gatherings, especially of men in Germany, had been through football tournaments they arranged. I think Jay was he mentioned this in the podcast when
Yes.
When you talk to Jay. You have football tournaments on national level, so means inside of Germany. So different venues, different cities build their own selection teams, only Koreans, but living in these cities, to compete against other cities. And then you have also these European events where you have like German selection teams of Korean going to play. The venues changed: London, Madrid, Amsterdam, Germany, and on the highest level in Korea you have a national sports festival that is called 전국체전. It's like a national Olympic for amateurs. But very big, live streamed on television. The president is coming for holding the opening speech. And there had been created an extra tournament for overseas Korean. So as a Korean German, you play against Jay, Korean France, or Japan, or the US. And this was kind of very interesting because everybody is Korean, but I don't know why, but somehow you can recognize where these people are coming from.
Sure.
When I was student, there was a cultural program called 한민족체전. It was similar. You had people Koreans from all over the world, but you could see where they're coming from. Korean Japanese, almost looking like Japanese. Korean Chinese, also looking like Chinese. Germans, like not laughing, very serious.
Yes.
Americans, cool, and then Koreans from South America, partying every time. So it was like you could see the origin of these people.
Wow.
The regional origin, the heritage is Korea for everybody.
Yes.
But the regional origin had been like you could figure this out. Very interesting, and so sports always, not only among the Koreans, for everybody. I think nowadays we are facing so many problems. It can be a way to unite people.
So, for you, like growing up in Germany and your youth, like I know you also played a lot of competitive soccer until like your adolescence as well, right? Like, was the most of your personal community, your friend group, was it Korean German community as a result of your father, or did you interact with both and have a lot of, I guess like white German friends as well?
For the start, I really didn't have Korean friends. Kindergarten, primary school, so almost German friends. I started to play football. I was not too bad, but not good enough to be professional later on. My father because we had these legends coming to our house.
Yes,
had been always that I have taeguki, the Korean flag on my breast.
Yeah.
Later on I did, but only by supporting Korea as a fan jersey.
Sure.
But I'm lucky to work in this area. I think this is really lucky to do something that you really like. Then at the age of 13, 14, something like this, there had been a social organization called Caritas, who organized like summer camps for Koreans living in Germany. It was like 2 weeks program, Koreans from all over Germany, youth coming together, having like some kind of school program. You learn Korean, you learn about Korean history, you do stuff together, and you play football. And out of a sudden, I realized, okay, these people, without really mentioning the point, have the same emotional level like me. So the like similar experiences made you become one. So and from that moment on, I felt, okay, I feel much more comfortable with this type of people than being with my German friends, my real German friends.
Sure.
And for sure I didn't quit because I went to school, and also in my football team we had Germans, but also a lot of different nationalities. Then after graduating high school, I went to Korea for half a year, as I told you. 6 months in Seoul University language course.
But now, before that, growing up, did you speak a lot of Korean? Did your parents, when you would have conversation with them, would they speak to you in Korean primarily?
I think my parents, especially my mother, had been afraid that I cannot follow in school when speaking no perfect German. So she spoke German, the German of my parents, for sure. They immigrated there, and it was not perfect. My mother speaks much better than my father, but it was not perfect. You know how much weight Korean parents put on the education.
Yes.
So they had been afraid, okay, if he doesn't speak good German, he will be not good in school.
Right.
So my Korean skills had been very poor. I could understand, but I couldn't speak. I remember the first time when I have been in Korea with my father. I think I was like 5 years old. My mother stayed in Germany, and the two of us, we went to Korea. At that time it was like 24 hours, having a stop in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
And not getting out of the plane. You had to stay inside the plane. They refueled, and
straight away.
Then they headed again in direction to Korea. When arriving in Korea, my father was busy with his own business, and he left me with my relatives. But at that time, for me, completely strangers, because I never seen them before. It was like today you have like you can do video chat and everything, but these people had been strangers for me. And also at that time, international calls very, very expensive. So my father, somewhere in Korea, no mobile. So they called my mother at home. And as it's too expensive, it was like 1 minute, 2 minute call. And the only thing they asked, okay, what does Markus like to eat? Just to that I can feel comfortable here.
Right.
And my mother somehow said he likes French fries. Everywhere I went, I was served only French fries.
That's amazing.
It's I think she told my auntie, and she called everybody. So before that, in kindergarten, people sometimes called me like Chinese or some kind of rice eater. So my understanding of Korea was, and we did so at home, you eat rice.
Yes.
As a meal. But being the first time in Korea, everywhere I went, I did. I only got French fries. So I was quite confused. This country is more German than Germany. Huh? I thought they eat rice, but I only had French fries. So this was kind of my first experience in Korea. Even later in the youth, until these summer camps, I played football. We had the Korean school on every Saturday. In the area I live is the western part of Germany, Köln in German. We had Korean school on every Saturday, but I had matches to play with my team. So in comparison to the Korean skills of my friends, my Korean at that time was very poor. My mindset changed with these summer camps. So I tried to learn more, but I think the real turning point in terms of language had been after graduation when staying here. Because at that time I learned, okay, this is the real Korea. Before it was like being 3, 4, 5 weeks for summer holidays here with your parents, then you go with your cousins to Seoul or some amusement parks, and that's it. But the real Korea as a student is quite interesting.
Yeah,
at that time, and you have to speak, and this was kind of a turning point. I would say that I speak fluently, but I started late, so this is.
So there's hope for me as well, huh?
Sure.
Your objective or your interest in coming back to Korea during your college years and just spending a little bit of time here, was it because you had Korean German friends who were doing something similar? Was it because you wanted to pick up the language? Were you considering maybe like moving to Korea at some point, or like why did you partake in that program?
As I told you, I started to work in this football industry very early as a student. I think I was in the first or second semester, so very early during my studies. I received this offer. I told the agent, sorry, but I just started my studies, and he proposed to me, okay, you can study, and at the same time, whenever the time allows it, you will work for me. So that was the reason why my studies took very long. It took me like more than 10 years to graduate. But in the end, because when doing this, I was like convinced, okay, this is what I want to do and will do also for the future. So I was like wondering, do I have to finish my studies? But this is also something I think family related, culture related. Especially for me as a first son of a very traditional family. I think the generation of my parents, they have the mindset of the late 60s in Korea. So very conservative and high expectations, especially on men, on the first son. So I was thinking by myself, okay, and it would be also had been a pity that breaking up the studies at that point, having no diploma in the end. So I decided to finish it, but now looking back, I'm not quite sure if I would have needed this, because especially in this area, it's all about network. I had this big advantage, like explained in the beginning, to be a Korean living in Germany, outside of the Korean peninsula, as I mentioned it before, I hope that a lot of people with diaspora background can figure out that they have, for sure, everybody will have advantages and positive points that they can bring into their own lives. And no matter where they live, if it's Korea or if it's the country they raised. So this is kind of, for me, the world is becoming more and more global. So I think, as I told you, the language, English in most cases, is nowadays standard. More important is have to have a cultural understanding of people, and to continue about Cambridge. Speaking about Cambridge, I think Cambridge is a perfect platform to raise the level of understanding of people. People in terms of local Koreans and Koreans with diaspora background.
Yes. Well, I mean, we were talking just before this about how we're recording in the Global Startup Center and how it is intended for foreigners, people with nationality abroad, in order to use this facility. And one thing that I have seen time and time again within the startup ecosystem here is that whether it's the government or companies, they are prioritizing like foreigners, right? Like let's say white Germans or white Americans coming here to start their companies. I feel like Korean diaspora type people, because they blend in, they get maybe overlooked a little bit, or they're not perceived as the natural gateway towards these international communities, right? And you and your whole career, of bringing, let's say, Korean soccer players and helping them feel comfortable in understanding German culture is like the prime example, I think, of how Korean diaspora can be a huge asset. And is almost like a necessary interface between the two cultures. Because even when I'm having a conversation with a Korean person who doesn't speak much English, it's preferable for me to also have a friend who can kind of interface between and be like a translator of sorts. And without that person, it's almost so difficult for me to even interact with them or engage with them in any other way, unless I make the effort to spend 6 months a year to really learn the language and begin to communicate. But even then, there are still cultural factors that I might not be used to or comfortable with, and I might not pick up on those signals. And even in talking to some government officials and professors that study Korean diaspora, I've gotten connected to a few of them. And it's very unfortunate to me that for a long time, Korean diaspora profiles, at least here in Korea, have kind of some maybe negative connotation or a bit of a stigma. That seems to be changing a little bit. But it really excites me with Cambridge and with the work that you're doing is there seems like so much opportunity for there not just to be like one Markus, but like if there were, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 others, like Korean Brazilian, right, gateway, or Korean American gateway in the sports dimension, right? And you could see that across all these different industries as well. You had mentioned that people refer to you as the German,
yes.
Right? Have you come across other Korean diaspora profiles that have the same kind of like unique career mapping as you, or even Korean diaspora in other countries involved with their sports program and acting as that like translator, communicator type, or because I haven't come across any others, but I'm wondering if they exist and it's more common.
I think yes. In terms of Germany, for example, there are a lot of people taking their advantages out of being a Korean living in Germany while doing business with Korea. For example, nowadays K-pop, K-drama,
yes,
it's like very popular all over the world, also in Germany. Yeah. So we have people in Germany organizing events in this area, but to do like this, it's not only the language, it's about understand how to deal with Germans to do like this, and on the other hand, you also have to understand the Korean, how they work. So this is some kind of advantage we can have when having this experience, and most of us, even people who do not speak Korean, they still have this Korean values inside of them, and this is what I tried to explain as a big part of the advantage that everybody might have.
You've had some pretty unique experiences, right? Over the last, I don't know, you've been doing this your entire life, right? And one of the things that we talked about last time that I found very interesting was the unique types of opportunities that might come your way just because you're a bridge between Germany and Korea. And the story that most caught my attention, just because of the novelty, is the kind of serving as a facilitator for the North Korean like women's soccer team during, it was one of the prior World Cups. Is that right?
Right.
Could you share a little bit about that dynamic?
Okay. Germany had been host of the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup in 2010, and 1 year later for the Senior Women's World Cup. Both tournaments played in Germany. Before that time, I already had interaction with the German Football Association when doing benchmarking for Korea. So it was like a come and go. So they knew me. They got in touch with me and asked me, okay, Markus, we have this World Cup. Can you manage the team? And Korea was qualified. So, of course, I thought, okay, yeah, sure, I will do it. Yeah. But then they said, okay, Markus, but this time it's not your Korea, it's the other one. So I said, oh. I asked for like 1-2 days to think about.
Yes.
But then I decided, okay, this might be a lifetime experience, one-time lifetime experience that you can have. And I agreed on this. I met the team. The first 3-4 days, it was only the team manager I could speak to and who spoke with me. The others not looking at me, not speaking to me. It was like kind of weird situation. After 3-4 days, my daughter came to visit me. At that time, she was like 6-7 years old. And she was kind of a door opener. So out of a sudden, they saw not Markus, the German South Korean, but Markus, the human. He was. Out of the sudden, I was like, I was not the enemy. So they started to have normal, in my opinion, normal conversation with me. So I could speak to the delegation, to the players. But every time I spoke to the players, it was not behind closed doors. It was always outside on the pitch. For example, like we are speaking now, I was talking to one or two players, like small talk about different stuff. But then I could mention that video analyst and physiotherapist came along very slowly, but they came to join us. Later, I learned that these people had been from the government. So the official position had been like video analyst, physiotherapist, but they had been the people from the government to overlook the whole team. And for me, it was, on one hand, one of the easiest jobs I ever had, because after dinner, everybody had been in their rooms, nobody came out. So my day ended after dinner, 7 o'clock. I was free. My colleague for the South Korean team, he needed to work until midnight, going drinking with the head coach and showing him around and doing sightseeing or whatever. And I had plenty of time. The only thing I had to do was talking to the media, because this team especially had been of interest of everybody in the world. Different from men's football. In women's football, at that time, the FIFA arranged the hotels for the teams. So you had like 2-3 teams staying in the same hotel. We had, I think, as I can remember, Norway, but also the US. And USA and North Korea is something like, especially for the North Korean, they're the enemies.
Right.
So no speaking to them, not laughing. The US girls, very relaxed. They didn't care about political issues, so they met us and said, "Hey, hi, hello, how are you?" And but nobody responding except me. Sorry, but we are fine. But this was really a weird experience. After the Under-20 World Cup, the German Federation asked me to come to hear about something like a report. How was it with these people?
Right.
And as 1 year later, the Senior Women's World Cup had been scheduled, they asked me to go together with them to Pyongyang. I also agreed on this, but like 2 or 3 weeks before our scheduled trip to Pyongyang, there had been an incident in Korea where I don't remember the name of the island, but North Korea shot towards an island in South Korea, and then German FA decided, Markus, maybe in this situation might be better not to go. But then I worked in 2011 again for them, and what was really sad is that after saying goodbye, nowadays you have social media, Facebook, Instagram, so you keep in touch. Even without communicating, you see what is Tiger doing, what is Markus doing.
Yes.
So you don't forget these people. But you don't have any communication with the North, so been very strange. And a couple of years later, it was a friendly match. No, I think it was a tournament. South Korea played against North Korea and Japan. And at that time, I was in Osaka. I knew all players from South Korean side, and also quite a big part of the North Korean players too.
Wow.
Korean players said, they say something like 선생님, teacher. North Korean girls, they saw me, but the stuff had been changed. So other people from the government. So they was doing like, but this is something, thanks to football,
Yep.
that you can make such kind of experiences, and to underline once more, the German FA, you call this position TLO, Team Liaison Officer. For the first tournament, they chose people who could speak the language of the participating country. In terms of Colombia, maybe a Spanish guy, and for Portugal or for Brazil, a Portuguese guy. But later on, for the Senior World Cup, they changed this mindset, and with regard to, it's more important. Of course, the language comes first, but you have to have also this cultural understanding of your own people. So I think this was also something I learned at that time, very important. Language, maybe also very funny. Before every tournament, there is like the referee coming, explaining some special rules, tournament rules, and what are there, taking more a look on, and explaining this in English. I needed to translate this into Korean, but the Korean football language is, you have only English words like goalkeeper, offside, like throw in. And North Korea, they only use pure Korean words. So I was like translating, and players looking at me, what on earth is he telling us? And the FIFA guys looked at me, hey, the German FA arranged a translator who cannot speak Korean. This was also very strange. So you can see, they are Korean, but they have this adversity against what is coming from outside, especially from the US speaking English. So they refuse all English words. So I had to learn this football language, very strange for me. And this was one of the most valuable experiences I ever could make, thanks to this job.
Amazing. Yeah. Even in terms of, I mean, I think I mentioned this the last time I spoke to you, but when it comes to Cambridge and the natural areas in which kind of cross-cultural collaboration is possible, is like it centers around a few topics. Like one is food, right? One is music, maybe business. And then for some reason it hadn't occurred to me until we started having the conversation, but sports is just a massive one. And even for me in like my youth, when I was really young, I was very introverted and kind of isolated into myself. But where I always made friends was from playing sports with other people. Because as soon as you get competitive and maybe you suffer together, and you get heated in the heat of the moment, then it's very easy just to for people to open up, and for people to have conversation. And so I see so much potential in the future for maybe if there are more athletes or more sports enthusiasts that somehow want to contribute to the Cambridge ecosystem, to use that, whether it's events or gatherings, as ways to kind of foster that like cross-collaborative community. It's something I'm very, very excited about. And you see this on a daily basis. I mean, I imagine not just Korea and Germany, but just like Korea and all of the countries you visited. I was scrolling briefly like through some of your Instagram posts that you have had, and you've been like a world traveler your entire life. That must be a pretty cool life to live. Maybe at times tricky, but very adventurous too, huh?
No, this is one of the big advantages you have when doing this job, to see different countries, meet different people, learn about new cultures, tasting new food. So this is really something I love. It's I'm very lucky that I can do this. Sometimes I imagine people doing like a normal job, being from 8 to 10 in the office in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
So I think yes, very lucky.
Can I ask you? You had mentioned, I can't remember if we were recording or not, but just in terms of how you've decided to navigate your own career, is you were saying, if I wanted to make a big company, hire employees, it takes a lot more responsibility and time and effort, right? But you've been able to basically do what you're doing as a career pretty independently. Had you at times thought about whether it's like settling down and starting your own club or just like hiring employees to work under you? Or have you always kind of prioritized the independence and the autonomy and the freedom? Like, I'm just curious how you've thought about that for yourself.
My start in this business officially had been working for a Korean company. I had a Korean boss. And at that time, I figured out, okay, there are cultural differences. I was used to say what I want to say. And Korea, I don't know if it changed, but he's like a very... is an older man.
Yes.
Conservative, and he was not used to have somebody around him, an employee, who gave from time to time some contra.
Yes.
And so we had quite a lot of trouble because of this. I think I was always respecting the culture in terms of age. So I never got loud but I told him in a serious way what I'm thinking. So somehow it ended because I think he didn't want to work with me, and from my part too. So I tried to have for 2 years a partnership with young Koreans. But even then, working with people of my age, it was not easy because of they're living in Korea, I'm living in Germany, different mindsets. And then I think it was 2005 or 6 I decided to work for myself. During that time I received also some offers from the federation, from clubs, also from the Asian federation in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia to work for. But I wanted to be for myself. So have my own freedom. From time to time I was thinking about, okay, shall I expand, have employees?
Yes.
But with having employees, your responsibility raises, and so I was happy with the work I can handle by myself. And in terms of financial background, it was okay for living.
Yes.
So there was really not a big need for me to get bigger for myself. The only thing, and this is my personal interest also in Cambridge, is from time to time I have people working for me.
Yeah.
Like part-time jobs, by managing players, clubs, and not only Korean clubs.
Yep.
But for example, Korean clubs playing abroad in Thailand or in Turkey or wherever. And then I mentioned it's good to have somebody who knows the culture, not only the language, and maybe this might be a point where we can have both of us a win-win situation. Yeah. And I guess there are a lot of people who love football.
Yes.
So very open.
Yes.
to have you around me, and maybe we can work together in the future.
Amazing. I think there's so many collaboration opportunities that exist, even if they're just small part-time gigs as well, because if you're, let's say, a Korean amateur semi-pro and you're going to like Brazil or the US or to Germany, I imagine that if you have somebody that, even if they just look Korean, that's a little bit comforting to them as an entry point. I remember, so I did a study abroad program in Santiago, Chile, and there weren't that many Asian people. And whenever I was walking in the streets and you see an Asian person, you kind of like do a double take, of like, are you Korean or are you Chinese or where are you from, and it makes a big difference in terms of the overall experience. And we had spoken a little bit as well about even if you're like Korean American or Korean Brazilian and you come here to Korea, there are certain cultural nuances that you may not be accustomed to, and it takes time to absorb those. Yes. And I imagine in a competitive dynamic, whether you're getting coached or you're getting mentored by somebody, your understanding of what they're trying to communicate, even if you maybe speak the same language, the way in which you use the words, kind of like you had talked about with the North Koreans, right? There are subtleties that are important, and it can't always be easily translated.
We are back at the point. It's important to understand cultures, to understand other people. Yeah, and I'm strongly believe that Cambridge is capable to raise this level of understanding, and therefore. It was by coincidence when I saw this video of Chuseok and Jay, but show me, this is fantastic. So I have to get in touch with Tiger, and
Yes. You, when I was looking at some of your past projects or involvements as well, and even from the stories that you had shared, it's not just like professional soccer players. You also, with the youth, you are quite involved. Even with women's football, you're quite involved. In terms of, I imagine there are more interesting projects, business opportunities that you could pursue than you have time for. How do you think through some of what you decide to work on and where to invest your time?
Actually, not really. It's not like, okay, now I choose what I will do. It's also related to the period. Now, for example, the K-League began. A big part of my business is match management. Now, for example, the World Cup qualifiers are waiting. Korea is playing against Oman on Thursday, and on next Tuesday, I forgot who's the opponent, but if they win, they go to play in the US, Mexico, and Canada for the next World Cup. And what I do is arranging friendlies for Korea. The past years, Indonesia had a Korean coach, so I was also responsible for the match management of Indonesia. I do training camps for professional clubs. But what I love most is to work with children. I had children all over Europe, and I think I told you last time, one of my most valuable feedback from those children had been when saying goodbye. A little 12-year-old boy told me, 선생님, from now on I will start to study English very hard. And I asked him, why is that? Because I wanted to get close to the German friends, but I couldn't communicate with them. Right. So it's again the only experience you can make. And I got a call from his parents later on, and he said, "Hey, can we send him for 1 year to your place because he changed?" And but It's when working, for example, for the Korean national team.
Yeah.
You have these big players like Son Heung-min and Kim Min-jae. For them, it's normal what I do. It's standard. It's given. But when working with children, it's like you can see how they appreciate your efforts to show them a Bundesliga match or being in training and organizing meetings, meetups with their idols,
Yes.
Korean players, foreign players, and for sure it's a job. So I have to earn my money with this, but more valuable is this feedback from the kids that you can see how much. In terms of development later, how much importance can have such a camp culture? It's not only a sportive camp; it's like culture and sport event. So I think it's very important having kids in Europe to fill the time, not only with training outside. It's to show them. Streets, people on the streets, going to department stores, meeting people of the same age, kids, and this is all about experience, I think, and this is also what I try to do for my kids, to show them. You mentioned it. I'm traveling a lot, so what I want to do is to show them the world, not to tell their friends, oh, I have been somewhere, but to learn that other countries have other people, that the culture is different, the food is different, and I can only repeat myself. It's you have to make the own experience to have a deep understanding of this.
I wanted to ask you as well about like even before we were having this conversation, I was a little bit like nervous or intimidated just because like Korean football, that whole sports world, that's your entire life, right? And for me, I mostly participate in physical activities, but I don't follow it as closely. And so I don't understand all the nuances of the business of it, the recent players and their stardom and all of that stuff. But one thing I have been curious about is even if you look at Korean sports, whether it's football or other sports more generally, and over the past few decades, like in terms of what your dad was doing and what you're doing now of maybe trying to help Korean players that are top talents be early movers into these European leagues as well. Like, do you see low-hanging fruit or obvious opportunities of what Korea as a country could do to improve their competitiveness on a global landscape? Or have they been doing that well? Like even the track record that they have so far of sending people to Europe, like do you see that continuation of it? Is it just impossible to predict? Are there certain things that strategically they can do to improve their odds of producing top talent? I guess like what your overall observations on that front?
I think this is a topic we can speak hours about. Of course, they had been in the development. Otherwise, we wouldn't have players like Son Heung-min, like Kim Min-jae or Lee Gang-in. I think in every part of life, you can be better. It's a kind of mentality. And as I told you, the German being very straight. I had some issues, some disputes with the K-League, with the KFA, when having these benchmarking events in Germany especially. So the managers asked me, okay, we have to visit Bayern Munich, we have to visit Borussia Dortmund, Bayer Leverkusen, top clubs all over the world. So I said, okay, we arranged this, but afterwards, let's have also a look to smaller clubs, 2nd division, 3rd division. They said, why? I said, if you go to Bayern Munich, it's like, wow, you have a wow effect. But even if you want, you cannot like copy and paste, because it's a problem of budget. And clubs like Bayer Leverkusen and Borussia Dortmund the same. So where can we have like output from? Real output that we can use in Korea. Small clubs, similar conditions. How do they do scouting? How do they do development? How can they compete without having the budget like, for example, Japan at this moment? In the times when Okudera and Chabungon played, there was like Japan far behind us. Now they are in the FIFA ranking above us. So unfortunately, but we have to admit this. So we can do better. And the problem is a little bit the mentality. It's what is for a Korean very important is to show the outside.
Yes.
The package. The package sometimes is more important than the content.
Yes.
And this is a pity. I try to get away from them. Yeah. But not very easy, because they have to get good feedback from the top. Yeah. And to do so, they need to present them. We have been in Bayern Munich, and we have been like la 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 la. Because when they tell them, okay, we had been in like Rot-Weiß Essen, some small clubs, but very big in Germany, but not even known in Korea. The CEO would say, "What's this? For this you go to Germany?" But in the end, this is something. So, for example, also the youth development program. They did benchmarking in Germany, and it was almost a copy and paste. But it's also only to show we are doing something, because this is going to be done until the age of 12. Players coming out of this program, 13, 14, 15, no following up. So why do you do this? It's a pity in some cases. So I told you that I received an offer from the Korean FA back in the days. And I told a friend, okay, when I agreed to this, only two options. One is I will be fired after 1 year, or I will make it to the top. I guess I would be fired.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. With like even you explaining your first job working for Korean person, and your directness, maybe your German background, creating some tension or causing difficulties, and even in the story that you just shared with how sometimes Koreans can care more about the showing than the actual substance. For you, do you feel like you have gotten better over time at being more tolerant or even assimilating into that type of mindset? Or are you kind of just your German, let's say, personality, directness, it is what it is, and you're pretty, I guess maybe stubborn is not the right word, but just comfortable with that being as it is? Because even me as like a Korean American who is pretty get straight to the point kind of thing in conversation, or just tell me how you feel. And people trying to play some mind games of like saying things that they don't really mean, that can drive me crazy at times. But sometimes I wonder, where do I need to be more tolerant or maybe adapt in certain social circumstances? And where do I need to push back, you know?
I think in the eyes of my wife, I'm very stubborn. Personally, I think I also undertook a development. Yeah. So living now in Korea even changed me. So you have to adapt, but in a certain way. So what I try to do is not to change myself. but to adapt on the situation if it's necessary at the time. So I learned. It's a never-ending learning. When I learned this business, nowadays you have in colleges, in universities, you have the subject sports management, sports marketing, etc., etc. At my time, there hadn't been something like this, so it was like learning by doing, it's natural that you change, and when being 100% German in Korea, I think I would have to quit my job.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe I'll close with this: is in terms of your dad and his influence on you. Is he still in Germany?
Yes.
And in terms of what he thinks of the career that you've chosen, it must be a pretty cool thing for you guys to talk about, just in terms of your own the projects, the games that you get to watch, all of that stuff. Even though you didn't take the maybe more standard like business routes in terms of what you studied in college and what you had prior plans for. Is he still involved and in tune with all the stuff that you're working on as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
He is very passionate in football. So I think this was something we had in common. So, for example, my relationship with my father and the relationship of my brother with our father is different because of football.
Yes.
My brother is not so much into football. So the topics you can talk about are not given for him, but for me. So we speak about football all day. So it's like okay, non-stop.
Yes.
I think this is something, and my memories that I had with my father are all football related. So he was so passionate, and I told you he wanted me to become a football player later. So we had some videos to learn technical skills, and we saw the video, then went outside and tried to repeat what we have seen, but not really working.
Amazing.
But I think these are valuable memories you can have with a father.
Well, I was telling you before that this conversation was going to be unique in two senses. Like, one is the sports, topic. Haven't covered it yet on the Cambridge podcast, and so you're the first. And then also in terms of Cambridge being a bridge, I have interviewed some young folks, and you made mention of that. Some people in their early 20s, just starting their career, working on interesting projects. But in terms of Cambridge and the purpose that I hope it will serve is being a bridge between generations as well. And so I'm so glad that you were willing to have the conversation, that you had reached out initially, and that you were able to attend the last Cambridge event. And I'm very excited for maybe future projects, both like big and small, that might come up in the coming years where we can collaborate. So thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to speak to you. Hopefully, people can take something out of this.
Yes.
But it was almost my story, and once again, it's for me it was like a big plus that I could be in this area with being the person who I am, with raising in Germany, and that's, I think, something I'm very thankful about.
Thank you, Markus.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you too.